Some curses are spoken. Others are inherited. And some, like the story of Joliet, are carried in the arms of mothers and buried with their sons. Today we open a story that feels almost too cruel to be true. You're listening to the Dread Diaries. They say it began with a gift. A young woman, let's call her Aline, was expecting her first child. She lived in a small town in a small house, with hopes too big for the walls that held them. Her friend, or in some tellings, a jealous enemy, presented her with a doll shortly before the baby's birth. The doll was beautiful. China face, dark painted eyes, tiny red lips, a lace dress. Aline named her Joliet, and placed her gently in the nursery beside the waiting crib. Something to keep your baby company, the giver said. A blessing on the surface, a curse beneath. Aline gave birth to a healthy baby boy. For a few months, everything was perfect. The baby laughed, cooed, kicked happily in his crib while Joliet watched silently from her chair. Then one night the baby cried. That was not unusual. But that night the crying did not stop. Hours passed. The screaming became raw, hoarse, like the child was crying against something no one else could see. Doctors were called. Nothing helped. By dawn the house was quiet. Too quiet. The boy had died. Devastated, Aline buried her child and clung to Joliet, the doll that had sat in the room through it all. She held it the way she used to hold her son. She rocked it in the night when sorrow crushed her chest. Somewhere in those endless nights of grief, the stories say, Aline heard a whisper. Not with her ears. In her mind. I'll never leave you. We'll always have the boys. She didn't understand what that meant. Not then. Time continued its merciless march. Aline eventually had another child. This time a girl. She raised her daughter with fierce love and fear she could never quite name. When the girl grew old enough, Aline passed Joliet to her. This doll has been with me through everything, she said shakily. Take care of her. The girl, delighted, hugged Joliet and promised she would. Years later, that girl grew into a woman and became pregnant herself. She gave birth to a son. For 3 months he lived. For 3 months, Joliet sat in the nursery watching with those painted, unblinking eyes. And then, almost to the exact week as the first, he fell suddenly, inexplicably ill. He screamed. He writhed. Doctors found nothing. Medicine failed. By morning he was gone. Just like the first. A second baby boy buried. A second mother left with empty arms, and a doll that seemed to grow heavier in her hands. The pattern held. Generation after generation, the women of the family had children. A son and a daughter. The daughter lived. The son did not survive past 3 months. Every time Joliet was there. The doll never aged. Her face never cracked. Her dress, though occasionally changed, never seemed to truly wear out. Her eyes always were too dark. Too knowing. The women did what they could to break the pattern. They moved houses. They moved cities. Some swore they would never have children at all. But those who did, found the same fate waiting. One boy. 3 months. A grave too small. And each time, when the crying stopped and the mourners left, the surviving mother would sit in the darkness, cradling Joliet. And hear it. Soft crying. Not from the crib. From the doll. Now imagine this, the present day. The last surviving woman of the line sits in her living room, the lights low, Joliet in her lap. She tells the story to an interviewer, or perhaps to a friend, or perhaps to no one at all. Her eyes are tired. Haunted. I hear them, she says. At night. All 4 of them. Crying inside her. She strokes the doll's hair with absent-minded tenderness. I've dreamed of burning her. Of burying her. Of throwing her into the sea. But I can't. Feels like, if I destroy Joliet, I'm destroying them. Their souls. Their memories. In some tellings the doll is kept in a box. In others on a shelf. Either way she is never far. Never truly alone. The woman continues. My grandmother told my mother told me, and now I'm telling you. The curse is in the doll. The boys belong to her. They're trapped. Inside. I don't know who cursed us. I don't know why. I only know that every time I hold Joliet she feels. She pauses. Alive. There are nights when the house is almost completely quiet. No television. No radio. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of cars passing on the street. And then, out of nowhere, it starts. A faint, muffled whimper. Like someone crying into cloth. Like a baby trying to be heard through layers and layers of fabric. The woman follows it to the box or the shelf or wherever Joliet is kept. When she opens it, the sound stops. Joliet lies there motionless. But the woman knows what she heard. She knows. Sometimes the crying is not alone. Sometimes she hears small, wet gasps overlapping, as if more than one infant is trying to breathe through the same lungs. 4 boys. 4 lives. 4 last breaths echoing in the dark. The woman curls around the doll and sobs with them. Shoo, she whispers. Shoo. I know. I know. The tragedy is not just that they died. The tragedy is that none of them ever really left. If this story is true, then somewhere out there is a doll named Joliet, sitting in a darkened room, cradling generations of grief within her hollow body. Painted eyes that have watched mothers break and rebuild. Tiny, silent hands that have never once held the children they took. And every night, she listens to the sound of 4 infant souls that never grew past 3 months. If you ever hear a doll cry, if you ever feel the echo of a grief that is not your own, ask yourself, is it just your imagination? Or did you get too close to a curse that never learned how to end? You've been listening to the Dread Diaries. Hold your loved ones close. Not everyone gets the chance